Joseph Addisson, it's lovely to have you here today.
It's good to be here.
Thank you very much to telling me about your collecting interests. Can you tell me how you first got started in stamps?
Originally, when I was about 9, my grandmother giving me a little box of 1970s South African, just regular little pictorial stuff, you know.
Commemoratives and
a
definitives.
very small box, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the fact that they kind of went in. I noticed that some of them went together, and buildings and plants and things like that was sort of.
So you saw patterns?
Yeah, there was sets there, and it was just interesting putting them together.
But for many young people, that would be the start and the finish of it. The fact that you continued, what led you to continue?
I think she had an old 1950s catalogue, way out of date, but and in fact it wasn't even in colour, it just had plain printed illustrations of some of the stamps, and it was exploration of all these things that were possible to find, which definitely weren't in that box that I had, but with lovely designs, the older ones.
So it was aesthetically pleasing, and you liked the possibility of collecting some of this material.
Yeah, it was intriguing. Yeah.
So maybe the key to get young people to continue with stamps is to give them some old catalogues or literature or anything.
It worked with me.
It certainly did, and I'm so glad it did, because you and I have been working together on stamps for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Can I speak to you about your greatest find, which I know a little about, but I'm sure people who are listening would love to hear about this. We won't mention the auction house, but you did make quite a discovery some 12, 13 years ago. Can you tell me about that?
Would it have been a letter?
Yes, it would have been.
To do with the Jefferson Davis and recruiting slaves for the army, Confederate army.
Yes, that was an extremely important historical letter that you brought to light. It was in a mix lot, and this was the letter, I believe, in which Davis was making the proposal to enlist slaves to fight against the North. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of little insight into some desperate measures, that may be kind of seen as slightly cross purposes with his sort of general ethos.
Well, that's right. There's a certain irony in that, is there not?
Yeah.
That was a very important discovery. And also you once, again we won't mention the auction house, there was a Czechoslovakia accumulation, I seem to recall, estimated at $3,000 to $4,000, which we ended up paying $38,000 for. Yeah. Can you tell me about that Czech?
It's always a bit of an interesting feeling.
I would have preferred if you bought it for 6 or 8, by the way, but nevertheless. Tell me more about that Czech lot.
Exciting and nervous at the same time. It was just a great big carton of mainly of material that was from one of the great experts of Czech material. So it had all his all kinds of non-catalogue material.
It was in-depth, it was specialised, and I remember covering the table with it and spending, 2 or 3 days enjoying everything we could learn about Czechoslovakia, especially the overprints.
Makes you temporarily an expert in that.
Temporarily an expert, precisely.
For a few weeks.
In the end, we were able to sell it, so that was absolutely great. But boy, oh boy, I think we bought it our maximum bid, but I'll never forget the excitement we shared in that lot. There was a time when you went to Germany, and you were already jet lagged because you'd just come back, I think, from San Francisco, and then you had to go straight to Germany, and I believe you were in Hamburg. We won't mention the auction house name again, but you were so jet lagged that you actually decided to take a little rest in the middle of looking at a box lot. Yeah. Can you share with those who are listening what actually happened when suddenly you felt a tug on your shoulder?
I had to get some shutter,
Right. And
there's only a certain number of stamps that you can look at.
That's right.
Before you kind of get like burnout, and I needed a rest.
And somebody said something that
I suppose
woke you up.
It's unusual, unorthodox to be sleeping in the viewing room on the desk.
Yes.
There's a lot of kind of activity going on. it's like a very busy sort of library atmosphere, and then there's this sleeping young.
And our German friend said something like "the Engländer schlaft."
I can't remember.
Yes.
I got quite roughly jogged on the shoulder and asked if I was okay. Yeah.
Well, you were, and you still did a very good job despite the jet lag. But it was great that you did that, and we've had times where you've almost had impossible schedules between America and Germany, and yet somehow you fulfilled it. Why should people collect stamps, in your opinion? What is it about stamps that make this such a wonderful hobby?
I suppose their general and kind of universal association with people, geopolitical, sociological, everything really, natural. That's everything we know about the world is in the stamps, been put on stamps since they were at least, especially obviously since they were commemorative ones, sort of end of the 19th century, first commemorative stamps. But even before that, you can kind of you can apply postal history to any kind of historical sphere that you like.
I think you're saying that there's so much more than just the stamp. If you really begin to read beyond the sort of design, the perforations, the watermark, there's a whole history of the culture of a country, the propaganda of a country, the way in which it can be applied to correspondence and say more about the routings, destinations, the sensor markings and all this kind of thing. Yeah. You love postal history. Some people have described postal history and stamps as frozen pieces of time. Would you go along with that?
Yeah. I don't know about the frozen bit. I mean, there's a sort of such an implication of kind of movement of sort of, this thing has gone from one part of the world to the other part of the world, and has the marks of its route along it, and it's it seems to sort of almost brings it alive.
If you had a choice of a box of stamps unsorted or an original archival correspondence, what would be your choice, Joseph?
Of the archival correspondence.
Exactly, yeah, because you never know what the content exactly. Yeah. Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's lovely to see that you still have that passion for stamps.